Here on the Boxer Sports Network, our new highlight where we look at Pacific alumni, the Boxer Spotlight, and one of the alumni that recently graduated with a master's and bachelor's degree, not a few years back, for himself, played football at Pacific as well. Eddie Carrillo. Eddie, thanks for taking the time to chat with me, man, and looking forward to kind of telling everybody what you're up to now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Mike. I think it's cool to be a part of something new, something different, especially in these kind of weird times. So I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it.
No problem, man. Let's start off before we go back to your time at Pacific. Catch everybody up on kind of what you're doing now. I know that you just got your license to be a professional counselor, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you,
And kind of switched up jobs, but kind of fill people in on what you're doing now.
Yeah, since I graduated 2017, I got a job at a community mental health clinic. I worked there as a therapist, kind of doing a little bit of everything, honestly. Assessments, carried a caseload with my own clients. I worked a lot with the juvenile department, a lot with kids with teenagers, drug and alcohol issues and problems. So I did that for about almost 3 years. Recently, I got hired at Providence St. Vincent, so I work for a hospital system now. I work specifically in their eating disorder program, so it's a little bit of a switch up, but it's kind of cool. It's a partial hospitalization and intensive outpatient program, so very specialized, very program based, and it's pretty fast moving. People are there every day for 6 to 8 hours a day, about 6 to 8 weeks, and we're just trying to get people stabilized medically, mentally, to be able to go back to kind of outpatient services for eating disorders.
Nice. How rewarding is it for you? I mean, just to be able to utilize the degree that you got, all the studies that you put in
Yeah.
and everything like that, to now be able to utilize that in the job force.
Yeah. I mean, it's super rewarding, man. I think it's funny because this morning I went to Jamba Juice, and I actually used to work at Jamba Juice when I was younger. So it's funny how it all tied in. I went to Jamba Juice today, and the guy saw my St. Vincent's like ID badge, and he asked like what I do, and I was like, oh, I'm a therapist, and he was just like super nice to me about it. And I was like leaving, and I thanked him for my my drink, and he's like, hey, no, man, like thank you for everything you do. And I'm like, man, like, I just met you, like that's super cool that you think at least a little highly of me. But I mean, being a therapist is super rewarding. I think I see a lot of people, a lot of patients, clients at some of their lowest points, and I think to be able to help them, my whole like philosophy is about helping patients, clients, families feel empowered to where they can make differences and feel like they can take on challenges that normally or previously impacted them to where they were suffering. So it's definitely rewarding, definitely a cool job to have.
I know it means a lot to you to help out with people and mental health in general, especially now this time with
Yeah.
all the unknowns that we've got going on. I mean, people have had, struggles all the time, but now being stuck at home or whatever it may be with, work and such. And I know that, even outside of work, you're still involved in at least getting people information and resources and all that kind of stuff. You have a podcast with a friend of yours. Talk about that and kind of what led into that passion as well.
Yeah, so it's called Millennial Mental Health Channel. Our little tagline is like by millennials for everyone. We're two millennial aged mental health professionals. I'm a therapist, like I said. My friend Justin is a psychiatry resident. So it's kind of interesting how it came about. Like my girlfriend, his now wife, went to Pacific together for optometry school, and we met that way. Like we just kind of met together because I was already friends with his wife, and one day we were just like, man, maybe we should just make a podcast because he's going to be a psychiatrist. I'm, a therapist. We talked about it, and last year he just texted me. He's like, I think it's time. I think we should do it. So we got it together. Our biggest thing is for the mental health world and just society in general is it gets easier to talk about mental health when you normalize it, and you normalize it by talking about it more. So that's our biggest kind of thing with the podcast, is trying to just talk about it as much as possible, make it easy for people to talk about and for people to understand it's okay to have these issues. A big way we do that is through story. Or the intro to a lot of our podcasts is with stories. So we try to share stories so people can kind of relate and be like, yeah, I've been through that. That's something I understand, and makes them feel like they're not alone, that they can do they can get better, and they have resources and help around them. So.
chatting here on the Boxer Sports Network for the Boxer Spotlight, spotlighting Pacific alumni. Eddie Carrillo is joining me here, of course. And Eddie, we talked about where you are now, at this point. But let's go back to your time at Pacific. You played 4 years of football, defensive lineman in that capacity. Then obviously you got your master's degree as well. So spent a little bit more time as a boxer in general. But what kind of led you to come here to Forest Grove, Oregon?
Yeah. When I got recruited by Pacific, I was just, it was just a thing. Like I thought I was done playing football in high school and that was it. And I was ready to kind of stay somewhere in California, go to one of the state schools. And one of the defensive coaches back then, Coach Gonzo, he's now at TCU. He was the recruiting coordinator for my area, came and met with me, talked with me. And then Coach Buck, now the athletic director, came and met with me at my high school. It's actually the same high school he went to, so we had that connection. We played for the same head coach, so it just kind of felt like we went way back before when we first met each other. So he kind of convinced me to come up and visit. I enjoyed it a lot when I visited. The biggest thing for me was I knew I wanted to major in psychology. I wanted to make sure that would be a good program for me. I ended up meeting with Dr. Allison Burns-Glover. She's one of the professors. And from there, I felt like it'd be a good fit. I mean, she told me I wanted to work with – I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. I knew I wanted to work with people. I wanted to work with, at-risk youth. And she told me I could do it at Pacific. I believed her, and it worked out. It all worked out, so.
Nice. Any favorite memories while you were here? I mean, we'll start off on the football field, but then in general too.
Man, I mean, there's a lot, I think, from football. Honestly, I mean, when I came in, we were the second class to come back when football got reinstated. That year, we beat Puget Sound homecoming for the first win since reinstating the program. That was huge. I remember the energy on campus after that was just it was live. Everyone was just so excited that we won, and it felt like we won a championship. It was just one win that we had all year, and it was still such a huge day for us. I think my junior year too, we started off something 5-0. We're playing really well. We ended up 7-3 that year. Played really well. Had some really close games. Could have ended up, maybe even 10-0. We had some really close games. I think our 3 losses were not by very many points combined, but that was a big memory for me. And then I think too, the senior year, we were able to become co-conference champs. To be able to do that in 5 years with the program coming back was huge for us, and we still think about it to this day when we reminisce. I think, one of my good friends, he has a picture of the seniors and Coach Buck in the middle with his hands up cheering after the game that we all took together, and he has it up in his office at work. So I would say those are probably the 3 biggest football memories for me.
Nice. And you talked about obviously how much Pacific impacted you outside of football too, with psychology, and that you wanted to make sure that program was something that you wanted before you even came. What was something maybe that stood out to you in your time that was non-football related that was a great memory?
Yeah, I think the turning point for me when I decided what I specifically wanted to do and knew I wanted to be a therapist was I was interning for the Washington County Juvenile Department the summer before my senior year. I was at this place called Harkins House. It's a shelter-ish evaluation program for kids on juvenile probation who are kind of waiting to see what their next thing is, what program they're going to next, where they're kind of moving to, and they live on site. And I was doing that all summer. I worked Monday through Friday. I worked for facilities. I was watering grass on the areas that didn't have sprinklers at Pacific. And then Saturday, Sunday, I'd go spend some time there. And I remember one time there was a kid, we're eating lunch and we're talking, and we started to realize how close our families were. They were so similar to each other. He had 2 parents that immigrated from Mexico. That's my parents. He had a younger sister. I have a younger sister. And it just really clicked how close our lives were and how different my life could have ended up if things didn't work out a certain way, if my parents weren't able to do certain things. It could have been so different very quickly and very easily, and thankfully for me it didn't end up that way. So for me, that's when I really knew I want to become a therapist, and I want to be able to help these kids that don't have somebody, an adult that they can talk to, that they can connect with, that can help them keep on the right path and also help them feel empowered to where they can make the right decisions and make the right choices.
chatting with former boxer football player Eddie Carrillo. Eddie, you mentioned something I wanted to ask you about. Your parents immigrated to the United States and got you an opportunity, obviously, to grow up here and then be able to get your education. Can you just talk about that, kind of tell your story on that and how it led to your opportunity at Pacific?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, both my parents separately, they met in California. They didn't fall in love in Mexico and come over together. They met in California, but that was a big thing that got talked to. Like, it was like it almost felt like a requirement growing up to me and my sister that we go to college because that was something that they wanted for us and that they didn't have the opportunity to do. My dad used to work a ton, like 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks, 6-7 days a week at a restaurant that he used to be part owner at. My mom would work a lot, but for no matter what, no matter how much they worked, no matter what they had to do, they always made it work for, my sports practices, for whatever my sister had to do. They were always able to make our schedule work with their schedule, and they were still able to provide for us. So it always felt like growing up that college was a requirement because it was an opportunity that we had that they didn't have that we needed to take advantage of. So to be able to go to Pacific for, not 1, but 2 degrees, to be able to complete that, to have a job now to where, I can provide for myself and I can help people and I can do the job that I want to do. Cause I know for them, that was a big thing. They wanted me to be able to do what I want to do, not just work a job that I have to do because I have to, be able to pay bills, but be able to work a job that I want to do. So I'm super grateful, super thankful for Pacific that I was able to have that opportunity.
Nice. You've talked about obviously the impact that Pacific's had for you in your life to get you where you are now and just in general as well. If somebody was to have the opportunity to come here, like what would you tell them would be like a selling point on
Yeah.
Pacific and why it would potentially be a good place for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure when I was going there, it was the tight knit community, the family aspect of it. I feel very fortunate that when I do go back home, I'm still close to a lot of my friends from high school, and I just knowing that I'm still really close with a lot of my friends from college because that's just the family connection we made was really big for me. I think just the the I mean the campus is beautiful. One, it's always nice to walk through campus and like to be like, man, I go to school here. This is super cool. But just to have like the small campus and like the small size to where like you can know the professors and know the people you're working with and have that connection with them, and it can have a positive impact on you when you move on to other things. Just um, because I play football, because I was connected with Coach Buck and the football program, I was able to make a connection with a professor and one of the directors at the psychology program for the master's program and the graduate program at Pacific. So that took me a long way, and just knowing that that was because of Pacific's tight knit community and connection.
Nice. I wanted to wrap it up, Eddie, with kind of just giving you the floor on mental health, things like that. If you had anything that you would like to say to people maybe that's struggling, things that they could look out for or resources that they could go to, just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. That's man. I think one thing that I fall back on a lot is that I tell my patients this all the time is that it's okay to not be okay. Like it's totally fine that you're not at 100%. It's totally fine that your life isn't what you see on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram. Like that's all okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. No one makes it through anything without any type of help. I want people to understand like help is here, help is there for you, and it's okay to ask for it. And I think the biggest thing that I hold on to, like for me as a therapist, and I think a lot of mental health professionals have, is that this is our job because we care, but it's our job because we care. Like we chose this job because we care that much, and it's our job to care. Like it's all encompassing. Like we do this because this is what we're supposed to do. We care. We're here for you. We want you to be okay. So, I mean, to wrap it up, I would just say the biggest thing I always end with is it's okay to not be okay.
Well, Eddie, thanks for taking the time, man. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and look forward to touching base with you again, down the road.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, Mike.
Eddie Carrillo joining us here on the Boxer Spotlight, of course, on the Boxer Sports Network.